Hello, my fellow readers. I, Dark Symphony 777, with another fan fiction reading. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. So, Getting to Know You by Rick Tiffan. I don't know. I probably butchered that. It is a wild card fanfiction, and honestly, before I even looked up what the show, I wanted to know what wild card was. But apparently, it's some kind of crime show involving an ex-gambler solving fraudulent cases. So like it sounded okay. It only had 2 seasons, so I don't even know if it was good or not. I never even heard of it. So yeah, let's get started. Hey, it's me again. It's not me, the writer. It's Jenny. I don't know who this Janine is, but I don't care. She gave me permission to post it in here. Yes. Okay, so it's someone else writing the story for someone else's profile. What's up with that? Okay. I started. Dan pulled up outside Zoe's place. The afternoon sun was hitting the front window and made him squint. He sat and collected his thoughts. Would Zoe be happy to see him? I don't know. Would she? Would she be upset, angry, or even worse still, would she be nonplussed altogether? So you'd rather have her upset or angry than nonplussed? Isn't nonplussed the same as apathetic? Well, not. You know, one in a second. I want to find out. Alright, so apparently nonplussed is surprised and confused so much that they're unsure how to act. Well, or unperturbed. I heard about that word for a long time. I keep hearing that word in books and stuff like that, but I never once bothered to look what it meant. Huh. I thought nonplussed was like apathetic sort of thing. Okay, so it kind of is. Alright, where is it? Okay. Maybe her emotions would be irrelevant. Maybe the situation didn't invoke any particular response at all. You're not in love with Zoe. Candy's words have been hard for Dan to hear. He had spent 2 glorious weeks getting to know Candy, and he had enjoyed that time immensely. Once the shock wrote off that his candidate was the Candy, Zoe's Candy, Dan relaxed into the idea. It wasn't as though he had been looking for a relationship, but at the ski resort, when he had met Candy, it just kind of propelled, and before he knew it, they had bonded. He was a surprise to anyone, including Zoe. Dan's feelings for Zoe had been strong for months, but they had been met with total resistance from Zoe. Apart from the odd, flirtatious giggle or stolen glance, he was sure Zoe wasn't interested. And then, of course, he had to factor Marcos into the equation. No matter how much Zoe protested and swore they were just friends, Dan knew differently. He had hoped that Zoe would recognize his feelings and be jolted into reality that she too had the same feelings, but that didn't happen. So when Candy presented herself and showed a keen interest, Dan didn't think twice about going there. It wasn't until the revelation of Candy and Zoe's friendship that he had reason to question his next move. Meeting Candy was a godsend as far as Dan was concerned. He needed a distraction, and neither of them was looking for a huge commitment. After all of Zoe's stories and anecdotes about her past life, Dan felt as though he already knew Candy. She felt the same about him. She told him on one of their dates that Zoe had talked about Dan at work endlessly over the past few months, and she was pleased to have finally met him. She was more than happy that Dan was also extremely sexy and charismatic, as well as charming, witty, and intelligent, which were the words that Zoe used to describe him on more than one occasion. Dan had made love to Candy I read that wrong. When Dan made love to Candy, okay then. That was unexpected. This is a T-rated. It's a K story. It's a K story, and they reference sex. I'm not sure how to feel about that. Do they make? I know they make references in cartoons like SpongeBob. Have you ever seen the old SpongeBob from like '99 to early 2000s? They had a lot of adult humor in it that flew over a lot of people's heads. So it's like, but just so blatantly say, hey, when he made love to her. Wow. I did not know. I did not need to know that in a K story. Maybe a K plus, but not a K. She received an additional bonus. Not only was Dan articulate, funny, handsome, and sexy, he was also an amazing lover. Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that this is a K story. K is pretty much kids. It's a K story. Like, why are we getting references to sex in a... Not even clever hidden ones that kind of go over kids' heads like they did in SpongeBob and older cartoons. But just blatant references to sex. Why is this a K story? Wow. That is just so weird. Candy couldn't believe that this guy had fallen into her lap, so to speak. In all reality, both Dan and Candy knew their relationship was a fling at best, quotation marks on fling. She had to return to Vegas, and he had to return to his everyday life as well. A life that meant he worked side by side with Zoe every day. He had seen the look on Zoe's face when it became apparent that his relationship had taken a physical turn with Candy. He knew from past experience that Zoe considered him a player. She had taken sly digs at him on many occasions. She would roll her eyes each time he mentioned a dinner date or a quiet drink. The truth was, Dan hadn't become intimately involved with any woman since Zoe had stumbled into his life. Her hold over him had been immediate, but because of circumstance, he had backed off. Zoe was finding her feet. She had lost her sister, taken on the kids, started her job, and was learning a whole new career. She didn't need a romantic entanglement. Not yet. So Dan backed off. But in the meantime, Marcos entered her life through the back door. That's what she said. In the guise of teacher and coach. She didn't let Marcos into her life. He more or less came with her new life. So when Candy got a job in town and it was possible that their fling could become much more, Danny and Candy spent 2 glorious weeks together and enjoyed each other immensely. They talked, they laughed, they bonded, and they made love. They confronted one another and they explored one another, both on a physical level and an emotional level. Dan sensed that for all her bravado, Candy really needed taken care of. She wanted strong arms to hold her, to take care of her. He needed intimacy and passion and friendship. Candy was providing all that and more, but it wasn't enough. During one of their passionate encounters, when Dan had inadvertently called her Zoe, it became painfully obvious to Candy that Dan's attention was being held elsewhere. Even if he didn't realize it or recognize it, she had seen glances pass between Dan and her best friend, but she hoped they had meant nothing. She knew differently now. When Candy headed back to Vegas with a saddened smile and a declaration to Dan that he did indeed love Zoe, she put a challenge to him to face his feelings and do something about it before it was too late. Dan was upset, angry, and confused. Was he really in love with Zoe? He had been pushing his feelings away for so long. He wasn't sure anymore. When Dan stepped onto the elevator 2 nights ago, he wasn't really sure what his feelings were. When Zoe looked up at him and their eyes connected, he felt a volt of electricity surge through him, and it was at that moment that he was sure of 2 things. He was sure that Zoe had entered his heart, and he was sure he needed to tell her before it was too late. The kiss that ensued in the elevator was far from passionate. It was born out of necessity, of wanting, of urgency. It was now or never time for Dan, and he seized the moment. When he felt Zoe's lips against his whole body ached for more. His knees grew weak, and his mind clouded over in a sense of overwhelming familiarity. He was right when he was meant to be, with Zoe in his arms and her mouth joined as one with his. That was 2 days ago. No words were exchanged after the kiss, and none had been spoken since. Zoe had called in sick the next morning and had spoken to the Intimidator. All she told Dan was that Zoe had called ill and might be absent for a day or 2. Okay? Nan's stomach had hit the floor. Was he the cause for this sudden absence? Was he keeping Zoe from the job she loved more than anything? Feelings of guilt ate him up. That night, he tried calling Zoe, if nothing else, to make sure she was okay and not actually sick. Taylor had answered the phone and informed Dan that Zoe was resting and she would let Zoe know that he had called. That was over 24 hours ago, and still no contact from Zoe. Excuse me. That came out of nowhere. Dan had called again today. Zoe's phone was switched off and the home phone went through to the machine. Dan left a brief message, not really knowing what to say. Zoe, it's Dan. I'm worried about you. I know you're on sick leave from the office, but I'm phoning as a friend. Please let me know if you're okay. I'll wait to hear from you, I guess. Goodbye, Zoe. Dan got out of his car and made his way up the drive. He hesitated before sounding the doorbell. It took 2 rings before he heard movement from inside. Zoe opened the door and met Dan's eyes. No emotion registered on her face at all. Not a good sign, Dan supposed. He smiled weakly and said, I hope I didn't come at a bad time. Zoe just looked at him. Quite a few long, awkward moments passed before she uttered any words. What are you doing here, Dan? I'm worried about you. I've been worried for 2 days, Zoe. I think we need to talk. And I'm not feeling well. This will have to wait. Zoe, please don't shut me out. I want to help you. Please let me. Make an awesome chicken soup, guaranteed to cure all ills. Zoe saw the warmth in Dan's eyes, and her stance mellowed. She recognized the soft hazel orbs as the eyes she had looked in 1,000 times to gain assurance and confidence. She eventually stood aside and allowed Dan access. He went in and headed for the kitchen. Zoe followed. You'll be lucky to find a chicken stock cube in my pantry. Let it go ingredients to make soup. Dan smiled warming. Well, how about a cup of hot tea? How about you tell me why you're here? An awkward smile came across Dan's face. It was time for serious chatter now. Zoe, I think we both know why I'm here. The last time I saw you, I took you in my arms and I kissed you. The next day you phoned in sick and I haven't seen you since. I'm worried that your absence from work has something to do with our elevator embrace. Well, I can put your mind at ease if that's what's worrying you. My being absent from work has nothing to do with you. Dan didn't believe that for a second. He knew Zoe's work meant so much to her that she wouldn't jeopardize her job for a couple of sickies. He tried to press her for more information. Zoe, I'm looking at you, and apart from puffy eyes indicating a lot of tears, you don't look sick to me. In fact, you look as gorgeous as you usually do. Well, sometimes people hide their sicknesses very well. Yeah, when I have a cold, yeah, the most I got is like a sick. Most I get is like a sneeze. God dang, Connie. Straight away, Dan knew he shouldn't have said that. He shouldn't have been so familiar. The flash of anger in Zoe's pale blue-gray eyes confirmed that for him. Considering you're not a doctor, Dan, I'll leave my diagnosis for someone more qualified, if you don't mind. Dan sighed. Okay, maybe this was a bad idea. You obviously don't want to talk to me. I just thought maybe you needed a friend to someone to talk to. Zoe almost snapped, but kept her voice reasonably calm. Well, I have a best friend. You remember Candy? If I need to talk to a friend, I'll give her a call. All the way in Vegas. Dan thought long and hard before he spoke. So this is what it's about. She's not sick. She's pissed at me for hooking up with Candy and then breaking up with her, and she blames me for Candy. Huh. So, is this something you want to talk about, or should I just leave now? Zoe took 2 cups from the cupboard and said coolly, "It's a rush. Thought we were having a cup of tea." Dan tried to read her mood but Zoe wasn't giving much away. He pressed on. Zoe, you obviously have something on your mind regarding Candy, and me, and my relationship with her, so please, just talk to me. Zoe poured the boiling water into the cups and began stirring. She stirred so long the tea was getting cold. She eventually threw the teaspoon into the sink and said harshly, I don't understand why you would sleep with my best friend. I need you to explain that to me. Dan swallowed hard. He knew this conversation was coming, but now he didn't feel as prepared as he thought he might be. I need to clarify something first, Zoe. I didn't know who Candy was when I slept with her. I didn't know she was your Candy. That didn't help the situation at all. Zoe was angrier than ever now. And what's up with that? You're up there to do a job, and you meet her in the bar, and you sleep together the first night? Were you really that bored, Dan? You know what? Don't even answer that. It's none of my business. Now, Dan was getting angry too. You said it, I didn't. They were staring at one another across the kitchen counter now. Dan with his hands in his jacket pocket and biting his bottom lips, and Zoe with her hands on the bench, looking as though she might break something if she tried to move. Well, I kind of thought it was my business. She's my best friend, and you... Zoe didn't finish her sentence. Dan was intrigued. And I what, Zoe? You gone this far, you might as well finish. Zoe almost hissed at him, her eyes flashing with fire. And you have a reputation as a player, and it's just like you to grab the first woman you come across in a ski resort bar and take her to bed. Stan started to speak several times, but swallowed his angry words down. He didn't want to say anything that he would regret, and because it wouldn't help the situation. He waited for his heart rhythm to return to normal before offering. Don't hold back, Zoe. Tell me what you really think. You know what? The truth of the matter is, you don't know a damn thing about me. Nothing. Nil. Zilch. If you knew anything about me, you would know what crap that is. And while we're on the subject of playing the game, what about you and Supercoach? Don't tell me you're not doing the horizontal mattress dance with Mr. Suave. So much for not taking the conversation down an angry path. Zoe was holding back tears now. He has nothing to do with this, and that's none of your business. Just leave him out of it. What, so it's okay for you to pry into my relationship with Candy, but you can't take the same scrutiny? Typical. Right. Typical what? Typical that you want me to open up about myself. Excuse me. Tell you all my deep, dark secrets, all about my life prior to meeting you. But as soon as I get even remotely close to discovering something about you, you shut me down with both barrels right between the eyes. I do not do that. I'm an open book. You know all there is to know about me. Give me a break, Zoe. I know what you allowed me to know and nothing more. You tell us all at the office about your happy Vegas stories, and what you got up to in your misspent youth, but you don't tell us anything remotely significant or private. You hide the real you behind veiled in silly stories that you... I'm butchering this entire sentence. You hide the real you veiled in silly stories you don't ever open up. Not about anything important. This is coming from a man who has trouble telling another person the brand of beer he drinks. Talk about secretive. I mean, telling someone about important, like something that might have changed who you are, about, what beer do you drink? A beer? That's kind of apples and oranges. That is me. Dan crossed his arms across his chest in a defensive stance and said sarcastically, Fine. Tell me what you want to know, Zoe. I'm here. Let's do this. Ask me anything. I will tell you. Anything you want to know, go. Zoe just looked at him but said nothing. She saw the little gold flecks in his deep green eyes doing a little dance. A dance of frustration, she assumed. She looked away nervously and picked up her cup of tea. She leant against the kitchen sink, moving a safe distance from Dan. She could no longer smell his aftershave or feel the warmth emanating from his body. She was safe now. Dan was far from finished. So what's it going to be, Zoe? You want to know about Lisa, my ex-fiancée? You want to know about my life as a criminal? You want to know how many women I screwed? You want to know what I did to Candy in bed? All just begging for answers. Come on, Zoe. Don't claim up and now. Tilly's tears spilled from Zoe's eyes. Shut up. Just shut the hell up. Dan moved to the end of the kitchen bench. Why? You think you know it all? I'm such a player. You know me so well. The truth is, you don't even want to know me, Zoe. Knowing what you do already places a huge freaking black X next to my name, and you're done with getting to know me. A criminal. God knows you could. God, how could you even bring yourself to look at someone like me? A failed engagement. Oh, good Lord. How can you ever trust a guy like me? Christ, I might have slept with a dozen women. What a player. How can you even bring yourself to work with me, Zoe, let alone stoop low enough to engage in a conversation with me? Dan felt angry tears stinging his eyes. He walked towards the doorway and said calmly, The truth is, you learned what you learned about me very early on, and you made up your mind right there, then and there, there and then. Isn't the phrase then and there, not there and then? That's why I got confused. That you wanted nothing to do with me? You're pissed because Candy accepted me for who I am and looked past all the crap that you weren't able to. Have a nice, perfect life with the coach, Zoe. I hope you'll be very happy to. Okay. A single grammar error right here. The comma right there. That's the only grammar error I've seen so far. Dan walked out. Zoe burst into tears. Dan hadn't quite reached the front door yet when he heard Zoe's painful cry. He proposed to me and I had to say no, damn it. Zoe's hands were trembling. She managed to spill tea over the bench and got annoyed. She threw the half-empty cup into the sink, breaking the handle off the cup. She hit the counter hard with her hand in frustration and then became aware that Dan was back, standing in the doorway, looking so much smaller than she knew him to be. He took a few tentative steps toward her and said calmly, "Why did you say no?" Zoe looked in the opposite direction. She couldn't look into those eyes. Not now. They were words stuck in her throat, and she was too scared to scratch them out. She didn't know what sentence they would form, and she was too frightened to find out. She opened her mouth but no sound came. Dan was right behind her now. She could feel his warm breath on her shoulder and neck. The aftershave that made her giddy was once again filling her nostrils. "Why did you turn him down, Zoe?" She wrapped her arms around her body, suddenly feeling very cold. She felt a shiver go through her body. His hands were on her arms. He turned her to face him. He looked down in her eyes and just held them for a few long moments. She hadn't ever noticed how long his lashes were, how perfectly they framed his eyes. His face moved closer to hers. "Tell me." She opened her mouth to speak, and much to her surprise, words actually sounded out this time. I don't love him." Dan's eyes smiled and saw the corners of his mouth bend into a grin. "I'm sorry you had to say no." She couldn't help but smile. "No, you're not." He smiled wildly now, too. "Oh, I'm not. Zoe, that's the best piece of news I think I ever heard. Ever." Zoe leaned against the kitchen bench, and Dan stood with his hands on either side of her resting on the bench. Zoe said in a fluster, "Why is that such great news?" "Because I'm not done getting to know you. And I would like to think there is so much more about me to learn than what you have already. Zoe looked deep into Dan's eyes and said, "I don't need to know anything more." Dan's lips brushed against hers ever so slightly and whispered, "Why is that?" Zoe felt her knees weaken. She slipped her hands beneath his jacket and rested them on his hips, "Because all I need to know, enough to know why my heart is leaping out of my chest right now." Their mouths came together again, a far cry from their last kiss. This one held much passion and much hope. Dan's body held Zoe's against the bench, and his hand found the back of her neck. Her lips parted, and Dan's tongue slipped inside effortlessly, and simultaneously moans escaped from each of them. Dan pulled back slightly and said with a cheeky grin, "It's going to be fun getting to know the real Zoe." Zoe was done with talking for now. She pulled Dan by the lapels of his jacket, and their mouths crushed together once more. There would be plenty of time for talking later and getting to know one another. So that's the story. First off, I saw only one grammar error, that one missing comma. That's it. But main problem I have with the story is the rating. Why is this rated K? If they didn't have the allusions to Dan and this candy girl making love, fine. I could easily see that as a K rating. Fine, nothing offensive, nothing anything, nothing, just a normal story. But the moment they referenced the all the sex references, I'm like, this is a little bad for K stories. So we're just gonna take a look at let's just look at Supernatural for 1 second. Alright, so go to the filters. Yep. Alright. So we have K, K+, T, and M. There's 4 ratings. The K is the one that's supposed to be for kids, and the K+ is supposed to be for preteens. I'm wondering why wasn't the story rated K+? I can't see it as an M because it's just references. I can barely see it as a T story. Maybe if you want to push the envelope a little bit, make it a T story. But why is it K? If there's references to two characters having sex, they don't show anything. All they do is reference the fact they did it. But there is no reason to have a kid story and have adult references to it, because it makes no sense. And honestly, that's really all I have to say about the story. Just change the rating to K+. Just add in a comment or something. I see nothing wrong with the story from a character standpoint, from a pacing standpoint. No, there's nothing in terms of the characters. I don't know about the characters. I know Zoe was a gambler, and that's really it. So I have nothing wrong with the story, but it's really nothing wrong. That's really it. So that is my reading of Getting to Know You. Sorry, I don't have anything to say because there's really nothing to say because there's nothing really to talk about outside of the rating. If I had to rate this, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Yeah, 4 out of 5. I wouldn't say it's too spectacular. It's nothing, but it's above average, so it's like, give it a 4. So that is Getting to Know You by Rick Fan. I guess I said that. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.